UFC Fight Night going down this Saturday in Saudi Arabia. At the top of the card in the main event, we have former champion Israel Adesanya versus Nasruddin Imavov. And then in the co-main event, we have Charles Bullet versus MVP Michael Venom Page. If you guys are fans of striking, this is the kind of co-main and main that you want. Very intelligent strikers at the top of this card, and the UFC has done a great job building out the rest of this card. And it's a very, very solid fight night, free fight card. So let's get into it. I don't want to waste any more time because, again, we do have some really good fights, fun fights on this card. First fight of the day, because this starts early in the morning for everyone in America. But we have Hamdi versus Jamal Pogues. I'm not quite there yet with Jamal Pogues. I respect the talent. He is a 205er and a heavyweight body. He is athletic like a 205er still. He does a great job defending takedowns. Striking is good, but I'm just not quite there yet with him. And I'm kind of finding a hard time getting there on this fight with him because I know Hamdi is coming off a 2-year suspension. He was caught using steroids in his last fight against Dontel Mays. And in that fight with Dontel Mays, he almost finished Mays, I believe, in the first round. Mays fought back and had a very interesting performance. Later in that fight, Hamdi did. Mays was finding his rhythm, landed some good strikes, but Hamdi had a durable chin. He stood in there tough. And when he needed to use the wrestling, he was physically strong and very strong lower legs that he has. And I believe he's like a Greek-Roman wrestler or something like that, Greek and Roman wrestling. I don't know. I forget but he does have wrestling credentials, okay? And does his wrestling work against Jamal Pogues? I don't know. I'm more on the question mark on that. I think Hamdi has the power in this. I know he's coming off using steroids, but I think he's going to be a little bit technical, better striker in this fight. Now, he is at a very disadvantage with the win in the reach, but he is coming off fighting Dontel Mays, who was, had the height and the reach advantage, and he was able to find Dontel Mays. But I think with the 2-year layoff, him able to, get his body ready in a regular way without using the performance enhancements, I think Hamdi has a skill set. I think I've just seen better skill set from Hamdi than I have Jamal Pogues. And maybe this, if because I'm not there with Jamal Pogues yet, maybe this performance, and if he does win this fight, maybe it does like make me a fan or make me just when it comes to breaking down these fights with Jamal Pogues, maybe I am more willing to pull the trigger on Jamal Pogues and pick him as a winner in his fights in the future. But as of right now, where I stand, I'm not sold on Jamal Pogues yet. I'm gonna go Hamdi for the win here. So that's where I'm at with that. Next fight, we have Bogdan Grad versus Lucas Alexander. So Bogdan Grad had 2 fights in the Dana White Contender Series fight. In his first time going to the Dana White Contender Series, he fought Tom Nolan, a very good prospect. Not good, but he's a very highly talked about prospect coming out of Australia. He got knocked down in the first round. And I think he did clip Tom Nolan in that fight, if I'm not mistaken. But he did clip him, and then Tom Nolan came back and knocked him out in the first round. It was like within a minute, or it was like a minute fight. And then in his second fight, after getting knocked out, he fought 2 fights in the regional scene, and then he went back to Dana White Contender Series, and he finally won in a split decision. Now, in that split decision, I thought he lost. I thought Bogdan Grad lost that fight to Aswell Jr. Again, it was a very close fight, split decision, but I thought Aswell was landing the better strikes, but the judges gave it to Bogdan Grad. Bogdan, he's very explosive. He's just plots and throws power in his strikes. Nothing too crazy. Like, yeah, he has the power, but doesn't do anything crazy. Now with Lucas Alexander, he does really well fighting at range. Now people are going to look at Lucas Alexander's last fight and him getting clipped in that fight. Now, Lucas Alexander was a huge favorite in that fight, in his last fight, where he got knocked down in the first round a huge favorite. He was like minus 500 or something like that, and he got knocked out in the first round. I just think it was one of those freak accidents that happen in the sport. And the sport, UFC, crazy shit happens all the time. And I just think it was one of those things. I know people are going to look at Lucas Alexander in a way coming off that knockout, but when I look at these fighters going to, fighting each other, I think Lucas Alexander has the kickboxing and the striking to stay out of the way of the big strikes of Grod. Grod was getting touched up crazy in his last fight, and against that fight at Oswell. Like Oswell was touching Bogdan Grod up, and I think Lucas can do the same thing in this fight. Actually, going to take a shot here on Lucas Alexander here. I kind of went into this. I kind of went into this breakdown picking Bogdan Grod, but I think Lucas Alexander just has the skill set to, fight on the outside, keep that range, be the smarter fighter here. I think Grod is going to get too wild and just plot and throw crazy. Give me Lucas to bounce back with the win here, and I don't think Bogdan Grod is. I know his record says 14-2, but I don't think he's that guy that his record says he is. Give me Lucas Alexander to, um, pull off a win here. And the odds are reading it's an even fight, so it can go either way. But give me Lucas Alexander to win by decision. So we have a woman moving down in weight in Myra Bueno Silva. And then we have Jasmine Jazz Dudavicius. I'm a big fan of Jazz. I don't pick her to win her fights because but I respect her skill set. And just when I think she's out of it or doesn't have a chance in the fight, or I just think her opponent's better, Jazz proves me wrong and she shuts me up. I think Jazz is a dog, but with Bueno Silva moving down in weight, this is very interesting. And I think this is a very interesting fight. And Bueno Silva being an underdog, she's the veteran. She's fought for a belt, and she's coming off back-to-back losses. I get it. I think that Bueno Silva, she can match the grappling of Jasmine Jazz Vicious on the ground. I think Jasmine is meeting her match when it comes to grappling in this fight. And Jasmine always is the bigger fighter in her fights, but now she's fighting someone who's coming down in weight and is going to kind of match her size and physicality. So, but the thing that kind of gets me worried about Bueno Silva here is sometimes she looks like she's checked out of a fight. And when she's on the ground fighting off her back, it looks like she's just accepting being on bottom and not really looking for a way out. So it's very frustrating when you bet money on Bueno Silva or you pick her to win and she performs like that. Very uninterested, not in it. I don't know what's going on there, but I think Bueno Silva she's a good dog here. She's a good underdog here in this fight. She has a resume. She has the grappling to match Jazz, and she can get nasty in the clinch as well. Now, what I kind of worry about with Jasmine is she is such a dog and she pushes forward and she just is so physical to where she's such a dog to where she makes a mistake and she leaves herself self-exposed against someone who's so nasty with her grappling and locking up submissions. Because Bueno Silva is very nasty with locking up submissions. And we saw Bueno Silva lock up a nasty ninja lock against Holly Holm. I believe it was a ninja lock, but I don't know. I think this is a thing where I think this fight right here is wait for the weigh-ins. Wait to see how Myra Bueno Silva weighs in on Friday. See what she looks like on the scales. And if she looks good, I think you have a ton of value on the underdog here with Myra Bueno Silva. I will lean the dog here. I will lean Myra Bueno Silva here. I hate that I'm going against Jasmine again because I really wanted to pick Jasmine. And it's crazy that Myra Bueno Silva is the younger fighter here. But let me just see. Let me lock in Saturday morning or Friday night. Let me just see how Myra Bueno Silva looks on the scales. But if she looks good, man, I think this line's going to get – she might become more of a favorite or lean towards that way. But, yeah, give me Myra Bueno Silva, the underdog. Next fight, we have Faraz Ziam versus Mike Davis. Fraziam is kind of catching his wave right now. He's finding his confidence. He's coming off a nasty knockout over Matt Frevola. A knee to the it's either like a knee in the clinch or something, and knocked out Frevola was really really nasty. But for Ziam is he's coming along, and he's still 27 years old. He's still very very young. He is huge. I think he's like a really lengthy lightweight. Um, but I think Ziam is a good prospect here in 155. But Mike Davis, so Mike Davis is his career. It's he has a lot of injuries. He's dealt with a lot of injuries. That's kind of been his setback. That's kind of why you don't see him a lot because of the injuries. He's still 32 years old, but for how long he's been in the UFC to be 11-2, it sucks. But this guy is very very talented, and when he's on, he's tough to beat. The downside of Mike Davis is his cardio. When watching tape on the fights here, you kind of see him dying out, and later in the second half of the fights, late second, early third rounds, Mike Davis is breathing hard. But he still has that wrestling in his pocket to kind of go to when he's getting tired on the feet and he's fatiguing hard. What kind of makes me want to go with Mike Davis here, and he's going to be my pick. Mike Davis is Ziam getting taken down by Poyes. Claudio Poyes should not be taking you down that much, and I know Ziam looked improved with the takedown defense against Frevola, but yeah, it just doesn't sit well with me that Poyes just 2 fights ago was taking down Fraziam. He's still 27. He's growing. He's gaining confidence. He's on a hot streak right now. But I'm going just with the more skillful, well-rounded fighter here. I'm going Mike Davis to um, to win it by decision here. Next fight, we have Terrence McKinney versus Damir Hadzovic. Hadzovic is 38 years old. He is another person who is kind of been inactive, and I'm surprised he's still on the UFC roster. But Terrence McKinney, I think this is a fight set up for him to kind of get back in the win column and probably show out some skill set and probably get a finish here. What is making me go with the heavy favorite here in Terrence McKinney is Damir Hadzovic has no takedown defense. Terrence McKinney is known for knocking people out, but I think he has enough in his wrestling bag to kind of get this fight to the ground. Damir is not that guy. Now, if this fight gets interesting, if Damir somehow survives past the first round, because the fighter that Terrence McKinney is in round 1 and round 2 is like 9 day. Uh, Terrence McKinney puts a lot into his first rounds, and that's how he's kind of getting all these first round knockouts or being finished in the first round. When Terrence McKinney gets that second round, he just undisciplined, sloppy, tired. So I'm kind of looking forward to hopefully a more mature Terrence McKinney, and he's 30 years old, and I hope to see it soon because if he keeps fighting the way he is, he's not going to be in the UFC that long. Now, the UFC is doing him a favor here with this fight in this matchup, so he should be able to get a finish. But if he doesn't out of that first round, oh boy, it's going to get bad. So this might be a potential live spot here if this fight gets out of the first round. Wait to see how Terrence looks in that second round. If the mirror somehow makes it to the third round, I would live bet Demir. I don't know, man. But Terrence doesn't have a good record of looking good past the first round. So give me Terrence McKinney by submission here, but maybe a live action bet here on Demir. So next fight we have Abdul Kareem Al Sawadi versus Baloji Oki. So Oki came in this fight short notice. So Al Sawadi does have that. He's been in camp. He's probably been over there in the getting acclimated to Saudi Arabia, stuff like that. Al Sawadi is a good kickboxer. He uses his kicks nicely. He mixes up the different levels, kicks to the body, punch to the head, stuff like that. So he has a good variety of arsenal of strikes. But I think Beloji Oki is just a better wrestler, and he has the power advantage in this fight when it comes to striking. I'm going to go with Oki here on short notice. Uh, I usually don't. It's hard for me to get to short notice fighters here, but I think it just shows you how higher I am on Oki than I am with El Sawadi, just as fighters. Um, yeah, give me Beloji Oki. I don't think there's a finish here. I'm just gonna go decision here. I think Oki uses his wrestling more than striking in this fight, and it might be a boring type fight with this fight. So give me Oki by decision here. 29-28 clear. In the feature prelim, we have Shamil Gaziev versus Thomas Peterson. This is going to be a really grimy, ugly heavyweight fight. Shamil Gaziev is going to push Thomas Peterson up against the cage, make Thomas wear his weight, trying to tire Peterson out, and then Shamil Gaziev is going to try to trip him or get the takedown and just ground and pound and look for a finish on the ground. But because that's what Gaziev has done almost in every fight. But on the other hand, Thomas Pearson, he is I think he wrestled like in JUCO or something. He does have a wrestling background, so that's kind of interesting in this fight because Shamil Gaziev is now fighting someone who is a little bit more capable in the wrestling department. So Shamil Gaziev is not going to just maul these fighters or this fighter and use his wrestling and just smother him. Pearson can have some defense to that. So Thomas Pearson is a very interesting underdog here because Shamil Gaziev, his cardio is terrible. If this fight gets out of the first round, it's the second round, mid-second round, into the third round, Shamil Gaziev is not. He's good for like 10 minutes. And Thomas Pearson can defend takedowns, make this fight ugly in the clinch, make this fight make this fight ugly against the cage. Thomas Pearson has a chance in this fight. Now, with this being in Saudi Arabia, if this does go to a decision, maybe the judges just give a slight edge to Shamil Gaziev because that's what we're dealing with here. But Thomas Pearson is he's a very interesting underdog here just because of the style matchup. I think if you got some money, sprinkle some on the underdog here because he does have that. He has a defense for Shamil Gaziev's best tool here. But for me, I'm going to go Shamil Gaziev just barely making out of here, 29-28 decision. Or Shamil Gaziev gets the takedowns early and, yeah, he finds a submission on the ground. But, yeah. Shamil Gaziev by submission or a decision. And to open up the main card, we have Muhammad Naimov versus Khan Ofli. So with Naimov, very strong, a really dense frame he has. I mean, this dude's pretty jacked for a 145er, I feel like. But with Khan Ofli, I was so high on Khan Ofli coming out of the Ultimate Fighter season. But he did get slept in the finale against Santos. Myron Santos might be the real deal at 145. I don't know, but the skill set and striking of Santos is pretty scary. I think he's an eye to keep on in the 145 division. But now with Ofli, though, because he is such a short, stocky, fighter, he loves to use his wrestling. His striking is not terrible, but he likes to close the distance and get this fight to the ground. Kind of smother you with the wrestling. And he's going to be at a disadvantage in reach. And he's going to be a shorter fighter here. So he's going to have to work a little bit harder to get these takedowns and close distance. And I think Muhammad Naimov is going to be too aggressive, too explosive. He may just be a little bit much for Khan Ofli. I think Ofli's going to come in here a better fighter than he showed in the finale of the Ultimate Fighter. So I'm expecting a better performance from Ofli. And I think Naimov's physicality will win him this fight. I think it's going to be a closer fight than people think. I'm going to go Naimov by decision here. Next fight, we have one of my favorite fights on this card, actually. We have Saeed Nurmagomedov versus Vinicius Oliveira. Vinicius Oliveira is a prospect in the bantamweight division. He's a huge 135er. He fills out to the fucking gills at like 136. He weighs in at. I think he could be possible to move up a weight class because I think he is killing his body making 135. But so Vinicius is coming off a great year. He did probably have the best knockout of the year last year. That flying knee to Sopaj. But when we speak about the striking of Oliveira, he has his hands by his hips, really just throwing the strikes, his punches out there. He does have a bit of a wild factor to his striking. Um, he does have some heavy low kicks, but yeah, he can get wild with the striking. Now with Saeed Nurmagomedov on the other hand, you see the last name Nurmagomedov, but he is not related to Khabib. He doesn't train in Dagestan. He trains with Zabit, so you kind of see that influence of Zabit and Saeed Nurmagomedov's striking. But Saeed Nurmagomedov is a very, very exciting striker. He loves to do spinning back fist, the spinning kicks. But again, Saeed does, I think he does tire himself out a lot with those big actions, with the spinning stuff, with the spinning attacks. He does tire himself out, and his cardio takes a hit. And both of these guys are kind of fatigued in the third rounds of their fights. So I'm really interested to see if it goes that late into the fight, who is the fresher fighter, who's going to look better. Saeed is coming off a little bit of a layoff here. I think his last fight was like October 2023. So a year and a half maybe that Saeed hasn't fought. So I wanted to see what shape he's in. He's still 32 years old. Vinicius is 29 years old, so still young guys, but I think I think he's going to be a bit much for Vinicius here. I think Oliveira is going to be too wild. I think Saeed is going to kind of just be the more technical fighter here, but with the threat of takedown and grappling that Saeed Nurmagomedov has, I think that's where this game changes. I know that Vinicius Oliveira has been taken down. I think Sopaj had him down and was landing some heavy ground and pound. Could have been stopped, but it is what it is. I know people are thinking about the Ricky Simon fight with Oliveira to where he was defending the takedowns well. Ricky Simon wasn't really the Ricky Simon that we all know, but Oliveira was making that fight tough to get the takedowns from for Simone. So I think Saeed is very crafty to where um where how he approaches getting his opponent's backs. So I think Saeed does have that grappling advantage here, and if he has to use a wrestling late in this fight to slow down Oliveira, he does have that in his back pocket. So I think Saeed Nurmagomedov is just the all around better fighter here. I'm gonna go the favorite. I'm gonna go Saeed Nurmagomedov, and I think I'm gonna take Saeed Nurmagomedov by submission. Next fight, we have a heavyweight fight. We have Sergey Pavlovich versus Jairzinho Rodenstrike. Biggie boy, Jairzinho Rodenstrike. He's on a heater right now. This man is fighting his confidence. He is on a 2-fight win streak, and in that last fight with Tai Tuivasa, this man whooped Tai Tuivasa's ass. Now, if you look at that fight and you see the result of that fight, it says a split decision. One judge gave that fight to Tai Tuivasa. There ain't no way Tai even won a round. Jairzinho run strike 30-27 over Tai Tuivasa. Not even close. And then he's coming off a finish before that to Shamil Gaziev. So it just looks like Biggie Boy, Jairzinho run strike is kind of finding his comfort zone. Still a bit of a slow starter, but he is getting more. I think he's just finding his groove on the feet, and the kickboxing is getting a lot cleaner here. But Jairzinho run strikes downfall has always been power punchers, and now he's fighting one of the more powerful punchers in Sergey Pavlovich. I just don't think this goes well for Jairzinho here. So yeah, I'm gonna take Sergey Pavlovich because of the power that he has in his hands, and I just think that Jairzinho can move around all he wants, but it's not like Sergey Pavlovich is flat-footed, plodding and throwing. All right, this man can move a little bit. He's not just a classic heavyweight to where he's just flat-footed, not moving, none of that. Pavlovich can move, and I think he has the reach advantage enough to find the chin of Jairzinho run strike when run strike is maybe trying to fade away to get out of harm's way. I think Sergey Pavlovich finds the chin of Jairzinho run strike. I think Sergey Pavlovich knocks out Jairzinho. So give me Sergey Pavlovich to get back on the win streak or get back on the win column with the knockout here versus Biggie Boy. And then in the co-main event, we have Shara Bullet Magomedov versus Michael Venom Page. What a beautiful striking fight that we have here. Very two different striking fighters, but they're great at what they do. Shara Bullet is probably the number one prospect in the UFC. Very, very exciting. He throws more kicks than punches. He's coming off of an amazing finish. He did the double spinning fist and got the knockout against Armin Petrosian. But even in that fight, Armin Petrosian was landing and Shara Bullet was eating those punches. So the durability of the chin is there for Magomedov. Michael Venom Page is going to have the reach advantage, as you see here. MVP is moving up from welterweight to middleweight for this fight. So Charles will be the more aggressive and stronger fighter here. But what worries me is the stance. The stance that Michael Venom Page fights at is that karate combat style is very wide. And with the kicks, the amount of kicks that Shara Bullet throws, I think Shara Bullet will beat up that front lead leg of Michael Venom Page, and it will mess with the mobility of Michael Venom Page, and it will mess up what he does best. And that's kind of like blitz in, get out of the way. Has awkward timing to where he blitzes in, lands a few punches, and then gets out. I think Charbot will land the leg kicks, damage the lead leg, and it will make MVP's time in that cage a bit tougher to kind of get in and out to land the strikes that he needs to. I think Charles Magomedov gets the decision win here. And yeah, I really try to find a way to the underdog here with MVP because I think he is just a tricky fighter to get a read of. But all Shara needs to do is just damage the leg, and Michael Venom Page is you're basically at an even playing field here. So yeah, give me Shara Magomedov to win by decision. And in the main event, we have the former champion Israel Adesanya versus Nasruddin Imavov. I'm not going to go over Izzy because we all should know what this man is all about. Declarated kickboxer, all that. But in the last fight of Adesanya when he fought Drakus, he did pack on a lot of muscle, and I'm wondering if he was doing that to kind of combat the aggressiveness of a Drakus, the physicality of Drakus. I wonder if he was putting on that muscle to kind of combat that. But I don't know. Even though Izzy was winning that fight. He was landing the better shots in that fight against Dricus. Dricus was looked like he was almost out, and then somehow he got the takedown, and then that's all she wrote. But Adesanya was in that fight. People want to say retire, he's washed, but Israel Adesanya was in that fight, and he was winning most of that fight against DDP. So I don't think he's washed, but I did recognize that his punches were coming out a little bit slower. I wonder if that had to do with the muscle that he was putting on. But I think Israel's still here. I think he still has that hunger to get back to a title fight here. But with Nasruddin Imavov, I think he will have the power on his side. I'm wondering to see what this fight looks like in the boxing range. If these fighters get close, what does the close exchanges look like? Can Imavov close that distance and find the chin of Izzy? Imavov is strong. He's physical. But one thing that worries me about Imavov is the lack of experience at high level fights with 5 rounds and his cardio. So I feel like even in 15-minute fights and 3-round fights, Imavov is getting tired. Even in the 5-round fights that he has been, I feel like Imavov is kind of breathing hard in that 3rd and 4th round, and he's barely winning these fights at 4 and 5 rounds. So that's one thing that worries me. And Izzy has done these 5-round fights, 25-minute fights for years. So the experience of fighting at a high level for 25 minutes is there on Izzy's side. Does Izzy have enough movement to kind of stay out of that danger range in the boxing? I'm gonna go with the former champ here, guys. Imavov does have he can get takedowns. He can get this fight to the ground if he wants. I think Izzy's working on that takedown defense. I think it's going to be better. I think it's going to be improved. But Imavov is physical. He does have that physicality. I think he can get fights down to the ground. But I think that will hurt him in the end. Him being physical and wrestling down Izzy, I think that hurts Imavov's cardio tank. So I don't know if Imavov wants to go that route of wrestling and making it a grappling fight, because that kind of kills the cardio tank of Imavov. So give me Israel Adesanya to win this fight, to get back in the win column. And yeah, I think it's gonna be a great fight, man. But yeah, that is the breakdown for UFC Saudi Arabia going down this Saturday. It's a great fight night, but I'm trying to go through my winners for the Saturday. So first we have Hamdi, and then we have Lucas Alexander. I'm leaning the underdog number 1, Myro Bueno Silva. I'm going Mike Davis. I'm going Terrence McKinney. I'm going Beloji Oki. I'm going Shamil Gaziev. I'm going Muhammad Naimov. I'm going Saeed Nurmagomedov. I'm going Sergey Pavlovich. I'm going Shara Magomedov. And then in the main event, I'm going Israel Adesanya. I have one underdog, and that one underdog could change if Myra Bueno Silva doesn't look on the scale. But yeah, that is the end of the video. Hopefully I do enough to earn your sub with this breakdown. Let me know your picks in the comment section below. I will link my Twitter and my Instagram account in the description below if you guys want to follow me on that. I do post all of my final picks on my Twitter. So there you go, guys. Thank you guys again. I'll see you guys on the next one.